everybody, welcome to the Stock Car Spectacle. I'm Ian Jortson.
I'm Nick Kinzel.
I'm Tom Hoblin.
And Nick, welcome back. It's been a while, buddy.
Yeah, a lot been going on, work and school and all that. But yeah, it's good to be back on here talking with you guys again. It's felt like it's been forever.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So, let's start off our show with our Diecast of the week. Nick, what you got for us, man?
So I don't have anything like Homestead related. This was the car I was gonna play last week if I was able to make it for Vegas, and it was Daniel Hemrick's. I want to say this was 2018. The 21 South Point Hotel and Casino car, autographed. The South Point colors are always good looking on these race cars. Yeah, this would have been the perfect car to play for Vegas last week, but yeah, I didn't really have a Homestead tie, so we're gonna roll this one.
Hey, man, still cool. That's a beautiful paint scheme that he used to run.
Oh yeah,
and they come back from time to time with Daniel Hemrick.
Yeah, I don't know if he had a primary with them this year, but he definitely had one with them last year.
Yeah,
it was like the all black. So yeah, it's cool that they kind of stick with him a little bit.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, Tom, what you got for your diecast of the week, buddy?
I've got the most iconic Valvoline paint scheme ever with this old Mark Martin Gen 4. So
hell yeah.
Saw it in the stack, pulled it out. You know, it's iconic with that number 6. Very graphic number 6 on it. It's a good looking car.
I always loved like back in the day when Roush would just change the fonts of their numbers for their like paint schemes. It was really cool.
Why not? Lean into it. Be artsy.
Yeah. All right, so for my diecast of the week, it was announced today on Monday that Kevin Harvick will have Budweiser back on his car at Homestead, Miami. So I had to bust out my Kevin Harvick Budweiser diecast from 2014, not the championship winning one, because I can never find that one. That if you want to get it, it's like $500 or something. I'm not going to spend that money. Oof. But this is close enough. It's the same paint scheme, and it's just a beauty. And I can't wait to see that car run on Sunday. Just one more time with Budweiser before he retires. That's really cool. I wish they did that with Dale Jr., but there was no way Teresa would let that happen.
No. But Kevin's scheme that was shown this weekend it's a big swing and a miss for me.
Yeah, the more I looked at it, so I didn't like it when they showed it on like the graphic, but then when they showed like the video of it in the garage, I was like, all right, it looks a little bit better. You can see the AB for Anheuser-Busch a little bit more, and I don't know.
It's practically the same car. It's just the numbers move forward. So
yeah,
I think it's a home run.
The scheme was designed for that number to be right there in the middle, and now it just looks like a big empty red box. It's just like they didn't try to modify it at all. Like, and they could have done so much better with it, and it would still have paid homage. It still would have been fine, but you know, it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, we shall see how it looks when it hits the track on Saturday for practice. But guys, that's our diecast. Let's talk top stories from this weekend. Ryan Blaney was disqualified at the end of the race on Sunday, but that has been rescinded. His sixth place finish is back. There was an issue with the post-race tech, whatever that they had going on. I don't really remember the specifics, but Blaney back to sixth place. He doesn't have that 57-point deficit anymore, so that really helps.
That's huge. He goes from a must-win to it's not a must-win now. He's still only 17 points out, but he went from that huge hole to now he's back in the fight. So yeah, he got very lucky there.
Mm-hmm.
I still think anybody who's below the cut line going to the championship 4 needs to have the winning mentality. So I would basically say he's in 8th right now. He's ranked with the must win. But I remember Steve Letarte talking about at the beginning of pre-race, and he was like, you sure can't win, or you can win your way in and you can lose your way out of the playoffs, because there's 55 points up for grabs and you're not going to get 55 points, but you could lose 55 points. And that's exactly what we saw for half a second until they I guess their scanners were a little off. So yeah, good news for Ryan Blaney. It feels like a much less daunting of a hole. I mean, 10 points seems like nothing, but again, we had all 8 drivers finish them within the top 11. So if there's not much parity there, you're not going to make huge gains on the field. So still winning mentality, I think, for Blaney going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, and then Jake Garcia in the Truck Series will not be returning to the 35 next year, which is pretty surprising because I thought that they would want to grow with this driver. He's been pretty good. He's been outrunning that equipment. He's been getting a lot of top 10s, top 15s this season. So pretty surprising. Like I said, I thought they would grow with this guy, but looks like driver and team both want to move on.
It's got to be a funding thing to me. That's what it always comes down to. It's this just, you can't, the results don't matter so much anymore, which is unfortunate.
Mm-hmm. All right, and then Carson Hocevar was listed to be the driver for the 42 this weekend at Homestead, but it looks like they want to get their full-time driver for next season in a little bit early, have him run this race. Doesn't really make sense for me. John Hunter Nemechek will be in that 42. Which is weird. He's a Toyota driver. He's going to be stepping into a Chevy. He needed permission. And I don't really understand this move whatsoever. Let this guy focus on his championship. And it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't think the timing for it's right. Like he's fighting to get into his own championship or down to the Xfinity Series. Why kind of take away from that? Like they announced Carson Hocevar is going to be in the car for the rest of the season. They're like, no, he's not. So yeah, I don't. I mean, is this going to be John Hunter's first time in a next gen car?
No, he remember Bubba Wallace got suspended last year and Nemechek drove the 45.
Oh, it was okay. All right, yeah, I didn't remember that, but all right, so he's still fairly new to this car, so but I just don't think he's going to learn all that much in one race that he can take into next year
in a Chevy.
In a Chevy, so I don't understand this one. I would have just stuck it out with Carson and then get ready to go with John Hunter come the off season.
It's odd. I'm surprised they were able to pull this off more than anything, but I guess Jimmy gets what Jimmy wants. And it's just like you said, it's a weird thing. And there's so many permission slips you have to sign here with sponsors and manufacturers and teams and whatnot. But I mean, seat time is seat time. So I'm sure John Hunter's excited, I guess. I don't know, but like, cause also his Xfinity race is over by the time he's racing this. So, I guess you worry about safety, maybe. Who knows? It's an odd thing, but fun.
Either way, gets an early start. Yeah, gets an early start with his team next year, so gets to dip his toes in a little bit
because they switch manufacturers anyway. So
yeah,
like what I just don't understand the benefits of any of this.
Yeah, but like you said, Jimmy's the boss. All right, Corey Heim, he will be back in the 11 at Tricon next year. I think that's a great move. This is a great young driver. It looks like just Tricon is just all for it with him, and I really do think that this kid could win a championship with this team in the future.
No, definitely.
Well, it's also nice that he can have this mental well-being going into the final 2 races of the season for the trucks. He's not worried about where he's going to drive next year. Now he can focus on these 2 races and go for that championship now.
Yep.
But again, this adds one more like cover of mystery to who's going to be in those Xfinity Joe Gibbs cars next year, because you'd think he was one of the top candidates for that.
Yeah, that's what I thought was going to happen. So now that that's not really, the only guy I could see is Ryan Truex. I think Ryan Truex is going to be tabbed for one of those full-time rides as long as the money. That's what it's going to come down to. It's what it always comes down to with Ryan Truex. But
it's going to be Truex versus Trevor for who can bring in the most sponsorship. It's going to be the comeback of Ricky versus Trevor.
It ain't going to be me, that's for damn sure. But
both those drivers specifically, you talk about what the Xfinity Series is for. They market it. Names are made here. Toyota wants prospects in those cars. I wouldn't consider either of those 2 drivers as prospects anymore. So unless they're bringing millions and millions of dollars to race those cars, there's no point for Toyota or Joe to put them in those cars anyway. So it's a very curious thing, as true prospect drivers are signing deals below those cars and not getting set in them. You just wonder where they're going to go with it. Because
Right.
Truex is 31 years old. Not that that's old for a race car driver, but it's old for a prospect for sure.
Yeah, I don't see a Cup Series future really for him. I mean, he could definitely be an Xfinity lifer, but
Well, that's what I think is going to
who wants
happen.
to do that? You want to have these seats, cycled every 2-3 seasons for moving them up to Cup or somewhere else, and
Look at
that
Justin Allgaier, Xfinity
yeah,
lifer. He seems relatively happy with his life. So it's, at the
it's
end of
just
the
got to be
day,
the
for
team that
those
wants to take
two,
that chance.
it's just got to come down to if they're throwing the money at them, then they're going to get those seats. But if they're not, then they got to keep looking. So I'm
Yeah,
very curious to see who's going to wrap up those rides because the names are ticking off here. So who knows?
And you talk
yeah,
about the Xfinity lifers there. I mean, Hendrick Motorsports and the Chevy pipeline is in a completely different place than the
yeah.
Toyotas are, with Martin Truex flipping on retirement every year. It seems like every week, even though, I mean, we know he's coming back next year, but we'll be in the same spot again. So I got to
Hmm.
fill that car. Denny signed a multi-year extension, but he's not on the front end of his career. So you got some older guys in those cars again. But Hendrick Motorsports is all young guys. I'm pretty sure all those guys are still below 30 years old in the Cup Series. So Chevy can afford to put a Justin Allgaier into an Xfinity car and keep him there because he's getting results
Hmm.
and helping mentor those guys that also come through, the Sam Mayers and the Sammy Smiths next year and the Brandon Joneses. Um, so it's the different dynamic of what you're looking for. And again, I just don't think older drivers that it's not what the seat for Joe Gibbs, at least for what we've seen, is what those cars are used for.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, you might as well put in Brandon Jones as the Xfinity lifer as well, because I don't know, man. I don't see this guy moving on the Cup whatsoever.
Where's he going to go? Yeah.
Money,
Where's he
Well,
going to go?
he's
Yeah.
money.
got money. He's
He's
got
got
the
the Menards
Menards
money.
money, but I don't know, man. I don't. I just can't see this guy stepping into a Cup car. He just seems like the kind of guy we're going to see in Xfinity for the rest of his career.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, let's talk Vegas from this last weekend. We kicked off with the Xfinity Series, and Josh Berry led the field to green, but Cole Custer had the fastest car in stage one and won it, got 10 points and a playoff point for himself. Definitely very, very helpful as we only have a couple of races left in the NASCAR playoffs.
Is Stuart Haas just finding their stride at the right time? I mean, it was looking like it was too little, too late, too little, too late, and then both their cars are rocket ships this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean that's interesting. It's interesting for sure.
Yeah, the Xfinity program is going great right now. Cup still isn't. So then we had a big wreck on lap 54. Kaz Grala blew his engine, blowing oil all over the track, and the field collected behind him. Parker Kligerman, Raja Karuth again. This guy just cannot catch a break, always getting caught in someone else's mess. Jeremy Clements, Josh Williams, and others were involved in this one really early for a big wreck like this happen, but engine blew and oil all over the track. Nothing you can really do about that.
Yeah, that's close quarters racing, and I think Raja, even with all the damage, he still finished fairly well and
Mm-hmm.
and kept his head down and nose to the ground and kept trying to find speed where he could in a limping race car. So good for him.
Absolutely. All right, we had Riley Herbst take the lead from Cole Custer on the final lap of stage two and win it. And that's when the ass whooping started. He took the lead in that final stage and never looked back. By the end of this race, he had a 15-second lead. This kid has never won a race in the NASCAR, in the top 3 series of NASCAR. And he goes out and puts a freaking ass whooping. Everyone put him down. I put him down, saying this kid's never going to win. He's only here because of money. And look what he does at Vegas. He just puts on an ass whooping in front of his hometown crowd. Unbelievable. Good for this kid. I'm glad he proved me wrong. I was really waiting for it for a long time.
Yeah, he shut the critics up real quick and in really impressive fashion. I mean, I don't think anybody could have predicted this. I'd say, unfortunately, the one thing to take away from this is it's again, it was way too late for this to show up. Could you imagine if he's still in the playoffs or is
Yeah.
in the playoffs at all and has this kind of speed in this part of the playoffs? Like that's suddenly a scary car, and you wonder how he's going to respond. I mean, he just signed that contract extension, so
Yeah,
he
he's
has the
back next
confidence
year.
in there. He had a new crew chief recently, so they're finding their stride. He was at his home track in front of his friends and family. I'm sure that was just wonderful for him and all them to be there to experience that in person. It's just a really solid weekend for Riley Herbst, and kind of out of left field, to be quite honest.
Oh, definitely. I would say out of left field. I mean, it's good that he finally got this win because like we were talking about, everybody was down on him. Like, what is this kid doing here? He's only here because of his dad, but he finally went out there and he showed us what he could do. So I hope that he takes this and he just builds on this going into next year. And this 98 team, they could be really scary going into next year. If he can put a performance like that together, and if he can just keep building off of that,
Throughout the
he's
whole
going to be very.
season, yeah.
If he could do that for a whole season, because Riley Herbst, he started off this season with 6 straight top 10 finishes, and I was like, okay, maybe the page is finally starting to turn here. And then the bad luck and the bad runs started to come back, and he just hasn't been the same since. He missed the playoffs, which in the Stewart-Haas car in the Xfinity Series, that is a massive disappointment right there. Because like you said, Tom, if he's in the playoffs right now and he wins that race, he's going to Phoenix to race for a championship. So it's just the thing for Riley now is you got to put this kind of effort in, this kind of performance in for an entire season. And 2024 could be really exciting for the 98 car. But good for the kid. He finally got it, and I'm happy for him.
And you also think if he gets one more Xfinity season under his belt and he takes this win in with confidence the next year, still getting those starts here and there from front row or whoever in Cup Series, which he was impressive when he's been running the drafting tracks. So he keeps getting those opportunities. Suddenly you're not so worried about the Ford pipeline and who's going to take over the 10 car or what. You're suddenly, this guy looks super strong and like he belongs, whether or not he's a silver spoon kid. So we were talking last week about who the heck is Ford going to put in these cars because nobody looks good. And suddenly, and again, it's 1 week, I don't want to overreact, but suddenly Riley Herbst looks really strong.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
now it's just going to be about
one win like that. That's going to propel you and get eyeballs on you. So yeah, really exciting for the future for this kid.
Yeah, it's time to go to work for him. Like, you got this win now. Now it's really time to go to work. I think next year is going to be a really pressure-filled year because you've shown you can do it. Now we got to see it on a consistent basis.
Mm-hmm.
You also want to say finish this season strong. Don't let up from this.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, we got it. We can coast to the finish now. No, take this, use it, go get a win. Go get another win this year. Show him you mean business and carry that momentum into next year.
Yeah, I think now that he's got his first win, I think he's just going to keep picking him off. I mean, this kid, he's been, like you guys said, he's been pretty damn consistent. Little bit of a lull during the summer, but he picked it back up. And yeah, I'm excited for what this kid can do. Definitely, I think he's going to keep the momentum rolling throughout the rest of the season. Who knows? We got a couple races left. He could pick off another one. Spoil it for the playoff drivers again.
Right, and it's just like all the criticisms we have about him are still there. Because this could 100% be just like a one-off random happenstance thing.
Right.
But they may have just found something lucky in the setup. So you kind of want him to see him go do it again or go run top 5 for his next few races and just see what he's got.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, let's talk the Cup Series. We had Christopher Bell winning the pole, and this was his 6th pole of the season. My goodness. We talked Rocket Man back in the day with Ryan Newman. I think Christopher Bell is the new Rocket Man here. Unbelievable. 6 poles. This kid has been unbelievable ever since he stepped into that 20 car.
I mean, Adam Stevens knows how to set up a car to
Yeah,
qualify well.
Still one of the smartest crew chiefs.
in a time where track position is so important, we talk about it no matter what kind of racetrack we're at, the track position is so important, and the end of stage one comes so quickly. You gotta qualify up front to get points. So they're doing something right over there.
Mm-hmm. All right, and we had Kyle Larson taking the lead early. Bell took the lead back. We will see a lot of this throughout this whole race. These two, I mean, we know that they were big rivals on the dirt. In the Chili Bowl, they always go at it. So crazy to see them going at it here at Las Vegas on a paved 1.5-mile track. They're still rivals. And it begins, well, you saw it in practice, a bunch of flat tires, and it begins for Eric Jones in this race. It seems like these teams just cannot get it right with setting up these tires because some of them just fumble the bag, because then Carson Hocevar gets a flat tire and he crashes. And we had Ty Gibbs had a loose wheel, just a lot of problems with tires and wheels this season. I'm kind of missing the 5 lug nuts, guys, because the 1 lug nut just seems to be way too complicated nowadays.
Yeah, but every other sport racing series basically in the world right now is using the single lug and you hardly see any problems like that. I mean, granted, I'm not watching too many IMSA races. I'm not watching too many World Endurance Challenge. I'm trying to keep up on my World Motorsports here, guys. But like F1 is changing 4 tires in 2 seconds, and they're never losing a tire off the track. So you wonder if there's something with the way that these wheel hubs are built, or the lug nuts, they're just not locking quite right. And I think it's something that NASCAR needs to continue to look into, just from a safety standpoint, let alone driver safety, fan safety, track safety in general.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's getting a little ridiculous at this point. But either way, Kyle Larson, he wins stage 1, and he got pretty dicey getting out of turn 2, got real loose, almost spun it, saved it, but he did hit the wall with the rear end of his car, but he kept on going, no issues, and he made his way back up to the front.
This race looks completely different. This playoff bracket looks completely different right now. If that car backs into the wall or spins down, and like we saw Suarez in practice, and hits that tire barrier in the inside, like this race could look completely different. Christopher Bell's walking into the championship race with this if he doesn't save this car. And it shows you how impressive of a driver Kyle Larson is. Kyle Larson this week won his dirt racing sprint car Outlaw Series that he owns. He won the championship for that. Then he goes to Indianapolis and does his rookie orientation with an Indy car and passes that. And he's like, I wanted to go faster, but they wouldn't let me. And you'd think, oh, all these extra things are going to be distraction to what's his main goal is, to go do these playoff performances and whatnot. And he comes out here and sweeps the stages and wins the race. Like it's frankly just impressive, and all the different mediums this guy wants to compete in, wants to drive in, and how it's not one is not hindering the other, So it's impressive.
It's just amazing. Everything that this guy steps foot in, he goes fast and he excels. He's a great race car driver. Doesn't matter what kind of car he's in, he's going to go out there and he's going to do well. And that's what makes Kyle Larson such a fierce competitor on the racetrack, and why he's the best. Like
he finds the edge of this stuff, and we see that with the save he had to make. He finds the very edge. Even when he tiptoes over the line, he's able to recover and not let it get to him, and still come back and put up a good result. I mean, that same moment could make you apprehensive for the rest of the race that you're going to do that again. And he throws caution to the wind and just keeps going out there and wheeling.
Yeah. I would say, like, Kyle Larson, one of the best race car drivers who can step into anything. But I don't know, people need to slow their roll when they say he's one of the best NASCAR drivers. Like, yeah, he still makes some dumb mistakes. He still checkers or wreckers. He had a 9-win season. So did Kevin Harvick. We should label him as that too, right? Larson's got 1 championship, and he's been racing for over 10 years. And when his tenure in Chip Ganassi, he only had like 4 or 5 wins or something throughout 7 years of racing. So I don't know. If he was the best, he would have been outrunning that Chip Ganassi equipment for sure. So let's slow the roll on best.
Yeah, I think he was. He was always he might like in his first couple seasons. Yeah, he was still running up there. I wouldn't say he's
Well,
the
not like,
best
I don't know.
driver in NASCAR, but I want to say he is definitely one of the best all around drivers because he goes fast in anything he steps in.
Oh
I
yeah.
will say that.
Yeah, I will say very impressive with the way that he can step into a dirt car and then go into a NASCAR race car and then go into IndyCar and just do so many different things. It is very impressive. I'm not trying to down him on that. I'm just trying to down the people that are saying like, "Oh, he's one of the best race car drivers in NASCAR." Like, yeah, he's pretty
He's
good,
one of
but
the best. He's one of
not
the best for sure.
Yeah, I think
Right
so.
now in the field. He's one of the
in the
best. I
field.
mean, again,
Yeah, yeah, right
he's
now.
in the top 8 of the playoffs. Like,
But
how
people
can
are
you
putting
not
him on
say
the
he's
Mount
one of the best?
Rushmore. Like, let's kind of wait on that. Let's wait
I mean,
till
but there's still comparisons to like Parsons and Allison. Like he's just gonna go and show up at a dirt track and run that, and then he's gonna show up and he's I guess he's really great with the fans and all that too. He takes
yeah.
time even at these small tracks, and he goes out to the small track, and I think people just like him for that aspect of it, and that he is so successful in everything he does. It's a really admirable quality.
Mm-hmm.
And it's you'd think that his dirt experience helps him when he's losing that car off of 2 and helping him kind of lock that down or drive it. He knows what to do because he's been on the edge on the dirt. He knows what to do because he drives open wheels. Like it's impressive. Yeah, there's an argument to be had right now who's the best in the field. But Kyle Larson needs to be up there. Maybe not in the history. Maybe he's not on Rushmore. I don't think, but again, I think comparing generation to generation is a little different too. I mean, everybody has the LeBron versus MJ argument. Just
Yeah.
it's so hard to compare in that sense because like this is a completely different race car than Davey Allison was running. You know, like you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like
No,
it's
yeah.
hard to say because this is the 7th generation of race car. There's nowhere close to what all those old guys are running.
Yeah. No,
So
I'm just saying, like, yeah, Larson had his 1 year where he just went on a roll and won a championship, and then
Yeah.
last year was a big lull. This year he's been decent. He's kind of won races kind of all over the season, been hot and cold, and been wrecking race cars. And I don't know. That's why I still kind of hold him to. Yeah, still give him the time to be one of the greats in NASCAR. I think he could be, but let's wait on that a little bit.
he's a champion of our sport,
Yeah.
and I think that owes him a lot more respect than just the average driver. And I think he's going to be a multi-time champion, 3 or 4, probably by the time he's done racing stock cars. So that's something to look out for. And I think he's going to get there. It's just the Ganassi argument in his time there. It's hard for me to deal with. I mean, because the cars are so different. The situations are all different and whatnot. It's hard to judge a guy based off one section of his career. I mean, you could argue that getting wins in those Ganassi cars was impressive in its own.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was impressive when he did that. I don't know.
Yeah, no,
People
I
just
hear,
think he's
I hear
like
where you're coming from.
he's
I
like
definitely
a
hear where you're coming
god
from.
sent driver. Like I don't know, like he's Superman out there. I don't know.
Fair enough.
Alrighty. So Larson wins stage 2, and we had Briscoe with another tire go down. Brings out late cautions with Ty Gibbs' tire getting loose as well. But Christopher Bell tried to put on a late race charge to get into Kyle Larson's head, but could not find the finish line before he did. A great battle there at the end. Very respectful racing by Christopher Bell. Really could have spun the 5 car of Kyle Larson, but it went for the win, and Kyle Larson got himself a championship 4 spot.
Yeah, I wanted Christopher Bell to push it a little bit harder in those last closing. You had to see him out the front windshield. You had to see him struggling. I also wanted Kyle Larson to take away his line in 3 and 4. Kyle Larson was glued to the bottom of the racetrack, and that didn't make much sense. But you got to think that Christopher Bell can find 2/10 somewhere in those last 30 laps, whether it's getting through lap traffic and whatnot. But this was a quintessential 1.5-mile race that we like to see in these next gen cars. Yeah, the tire issues are something to kind of roll your eyes at, because that's a lot of times the team's just pushing it on the air pressures and not wanting to give an inch. But yeah, the ending of the race was really intriguing. You're like, oh, is he going to do it? Is he going to do it? And you're hoping he's going to get there. It was just a little bit too little, too late. And I think that comes down to navigating lap traffic. And
Yeah, next gen, it proves once again that on these mile-and-a-half kind of racetracks, it's going to be an exciting race, and that's what we saw here on Sunday. Man, Christopher Bell, oh, so close. I don't really like. I think he'll run well again next week at Homestead. It's just Martinsville worries me a little bit. Because I know he really wanted that one. That I feel like that was them thinking like, oh, this is our chance right here to get our best chance right here to go lock us in for Phoenix. But yeah, he's been strong. But man, I'd be scared right now if I was the field, because I feel like they just woke a sleeping giant in Kyle Larson. Because now he gets the next 2 weeks. That focus is going to be Phoenix car, making it the best they can and getting it ready to race. I would be scared right now if I was the field. Because Kyle Larson, he's coming.
See, I would also be scared to be the field for Christopher Bell, because we saw last year this guy works so well under pressure. Just advanced through the last 2 rounds of the playoffs last year within like the final race of needing a win. So this kid can do it, and we saw that he was pretty much lights out throughout this whole race. So Homestead, look out, because that's another track where you go and rip the wall, and the dirt racers know how to do that.
Well, you think that Rick Hendrick and Jeff Gordon will want the 5 team to focus on Phoenix. In the media center after the race, the 5 team was talking about, no, we're gonna set the gauntlet now. We're gonna go win Homestead. We're gonna go push for Martinsville. Like they want to take away all these opportunities for somebody who may be better at Phoenix to not give them the chance to win their way in. This field is so tight, and you look at the finishing order. All 8 of these drivers finished in the top 11. The 3rd, 4th, and 5th place guys were guys who were eliminated last week, as well as 13th. So 12 of the 13 drivers were in the playoffs or recently in the playoffs in the top. You can't afford any mistake. I guess now only Kyle Larson can afford a mistake, but they don't want to let up. They want to take this and keep it going in these next couple weeks, maybe against Rick Hendrick or Jeff Gordon's better interests.
All right, guys. Well, that will about wrap it up for our show here for our Vegas review. You boys got anything else to add?
Yeah, one exciting mile-and-a-half race. It's going to bring out another one this upcoming weekend at Homestead. Oh, yeah. So yeah, it's just gonna be fun.
I mean, this is the portion of the season where the cream needs to rise to the top. Chris Buescher did not have a good race this weekend, and again, he finished 11th. He didn't get any stage points. That's not necessarily a bad showing, but when you're in the round of 8, that's not good enough. That's not good enough. And again, we got Vegas, Homestead, Martinsville, and Phoenix. We're getting to these tracks that are they're not the gimmick tracks anymore. You know, these are your quintessential NASCAR tracks. It's time for the best of the best to show up. And Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell finishing 1-2, basically neck and neck, is telling me something about how we're going to see the rest of the season play out.
Yeah, this year, the round of 8. This is the round of the wins. This is where you got to go out. You can skate by round of 16, round of 12 with some good finishes, but round of 8, if you want to make the championship 4, you best be running up front, compete for those wins. Because if you're not, then it's going to be a tough road ahead for you.
I don't know what Martin Truex Jr., James Small were thinking at the end of stage 1 there. It didn't make any sense. And even Christopher Bell and Martin Truex Jr., their team decision to stay out 6 laps in stage 1, you saw how much time was lost to the fresh tires. It didn't make any sense to stay out and get on the front row when every single other car pulled into the pits. And that's not championship winning decisions. No. They're not making calculated decisions. Yes, of course, we have the benefit of hindsight here, but they're not making championship decisions in the 19 pit box anymore.
It's been the whole playoffs, man. Ever since the playoffs started, they have completely fallen off as a team.
Right. They got their first They got their first top 10 of the playoffs, which first of all is just wild.
That's insane.
Yeah.
It's
Insane.
wild.
Regular season champion.
And you're thinking, oh, well, that's good, right? Well, no, because they finished behind 1, 2, 3, 4 other playoff drivers. You can't finish behind 4 playoff drivers in the round of 8. Guess what? You're going to be out.
Yep.
You got to be getting top 3s, top 4s, and getting stage points. It's just, it's not enough. And people locking Martin Truex Jr. into the championship 4 felt right.
No way.
Felt right at the beginning of the playoffs. I mean, why wouldn't you lock your regular season champion in the championship 4? But for them to go on this absolute nosedive here, first of all, my prediction at the end of last week did not pay off. Even when it looked like it was going to, they qualified well, they were running up front, but then they're just making bonehead decisions out there.
No.
And now's not the time. Now is not the time for that. Yeah, it's just crazy. But that just goes to show that that regular season championship that really boded him well, because that's what those points of what carried Martin Truex to this point. Yeah. But now, hey, he's got 2 races to figure this out. Otherwise, he's going to be missing out on Phoenix if they keep having piss poor performances like this.
Right. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for tuning in to the Stock Car Spectacle. Make sure to comment down below what you thought of Vegas and who you think is going to be your next driver that's going to be locked in for the Final 4. Let us know down below. Make sure to like our video and subscribe to our channel as well. And you can also find us on Twitter and Instagram. So for the Stock Car Spectacle, I'm Ian Jortson.
I'm Nick Kinzel.
I'm Tom Hovland.
And we'll see you guys next time.